King P here.
And Steelio7.
And welcome to another episode of This Week in Metropolis. On this episode, we're talking to Graeme Mathews, who's an entertainer, a stand-up comedian and a magician. You may know him from Britain's Got Talent, in which he got through to semi-finals. We talked to him about his career and what he's been up to in the past year.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to This Week in Metropolis.
So, first of all, Graeme, thank you so much for coming on our show. Much appreciated. I know you from Britain's Got Talent from last year. That's where I first discovered your talent, so to speak. But for the listeners and viewers who might not know who you are, can you give an explanation to a bit of your background and how you got involved in what you do?
Yes, sure. Hello, Matt. Hello, James. Thanks for inviting me on the podcast. I was really pleased when you asked me to come on the podcast. I looked it up. It looks like, some weeks 6 people listen to it, so that's really good. So really looking forward to getting that.
Hopefully it'll be 7 now you're on it.
7. Right, me, entertainment. Yes, so I am. I'm an entertainer, really. I've done all sorts of things, but all linked to entertainment, comedy. I've had some sort of sensible jobs, but they've all been somehow linked to leisure and entertainment. Had quite a nice life, earning a living, doing stuff I like, until March, really, when coronavirus came along, but I'm sure we'll talk about that. So BGT, I've always wanted to do Britain's Got Talent, and if I'm honest, I wish I'd done it years ago, but I wasn't quite confident enough. And I think getting made redundant and going full-time, everything back into entertainment, I think I realised that I had to really go for it, and it was now or never, really. So I did it. I applied for BGT. I was really busy that year because the thing is, I wasn't starting from scratch because I kept the stand-up going throughout, even when I had the really busy sort of stressful full-time job at the visitor attraction. I kept the stand-up going. Kids parties, I'd stopped doing the kids parties, but I'd already done about 1,000 probably previously before I went and worked at the farm, and I was still entertaining at the Farmers Bam Bam. So I had something to base it on. And when they made me redundant, they gave me a year's self-employed contract, still doing shows at the farm. So I was really busy. I had loads going on. But yeah, I went for BGT and it all went well. And I wish I'd done it years ago. I don't want to destroy the magic, but you can apply for BGT and they audition many members of the public that want to do it, thousands. But also they do scout, they do contact sort of pro entertainers, and they'd asked me a few times. I've been contacted 4 or 5 times. You see it on all the forums on Facebook now, all the entertainer forums and magicians. Every year, about Jan, people start going, have you had a contact from BGT yet? And then we'll start, shall I do it? Shall I not do it? And there's loads of horror stories. And I think that's why I put it off, because I had the full-time job as well. I didn't have to really push like you do when you're self-employed. And
it wasn't, I guess, or how it's perceived when you watch the programme with so many entertainers that go on there. It's more of a lifeline, like this is my dream and I want to do it, so I'm on here. Whereas you were living it, you were doing it day to day. So
I was. Yeah. If I'm honest, we all do it really because we want a bit of a boost to our career.
Yeah,
that is why people do it. And some people get a massive career out of the last years. Other people, they do well on it, and they literally carry on doing what they're already doing and just get slightly better work, slightly more work, and it's like that, But I honestly wish I'd done it years ago. I think they first asked me if I'd be interested in about 2011, I think, and say it took a long time. And then the weird thing is this sounds really strange, because they scout every year and ask people. They didn't ask me for about 3 years, and that then made me want to do it. The fact they hadn't asked me made me want to do it.
Did you think everyone knows years? Why haven't asked me then? Should I have not said no that time? Is that
yeah, a little bit. And then when they then contacted me again, literally about 3 or 4 months after I'd set up the agency that I run now, about 6 months after I set up the agency, about 6 months after I'd been full back in entertainment, it just seemed the perfect time, and perfect opportunity, and I did it, and I'm really pleased I did.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you
I was
think?
sorry, go on, Matt.
I was just going to say we've spoken to someone else who was on Britain's Got Talent sort of in the last week.
Who was that?
It was a guy called MC Stallion. He was on was it 2012? I think
2012 or 13, I think. Yeah.
He's a rapper, and one of the things he shared with us was that his audition for it, what he wanted to do, was different from the end result, because they wanted a lot of input in terms of what you were delivering for them. Did you find that as the case for you as well, that they led you in a direction?
Everyone's got a different experience on BTC, and one of the reasons I didn't do it for years is I know a lot of people, particularly comedians, because comedy's very hard anyway, and sort of variety acts and stuff, that had bad experiences, and there was a lot of this. Some had literally just gone on and it just didn't work and they died. Other people felt like it had been edited to make it look like it was worse than it was. And other people had this thing about they were told what to do and they weren't allowed to do this. And I don't know whether it's just different people's perception, or whether some people get lucky, some people don't, or whether it's just a case of the show's moved on. But I didn't have that experience. I had a good experience. No, they weren't particularly. When it gets quite full on once you get to the semi-finals. The actual audition bit, what I was going to do in the film audition, that didn't have a lot of input on that. They didn't, but they didn't ever really say, oh no, don't do that, do this. They sort of let me do what I was going to do. They told me what bits of what I did they thought worked better, and I'd sent them videos and I'd done a bit to camera to them, because it was a strange situation actually, because what I almost didn't do it, because what happened was, so if you are really good and you're established and you've got a video of exactly what you want to do as your audition, you just happen to already have that, there's a chance you can go straight to judges' auditions if you're a pro actor already. Now, that's what I was aiming for, and that's what I was hoping, but it didn't happen. They wanted me to do another audition first. So they asked me to do a comedy showcase for them at the Hen and Chickens Theatre in London, little arty theatre. Because what they realise is with comedy, because what if you're a member of the public and you go, I want to be on BGT, you apply, you send the video, and if they want you, they invite you to a producer's audition, and you just perform to a camera and to one man in the room, and then they do a little bit of chat with you, and they decide whether they want you. Now, that's half the comedy, and they've realised that over the years. Yeah. So what they now do with comedy is they do a comedy showcase instead, which works better because they get to see comics working to a live audience. And they do that pre the judges' audition. But basically, they offer me 2 dates to do these comedy showcase days, and I couldn't do either of them. And I was like, you know, they're going to need more, and basically we just couldn't make it work date-wise. And then they offered me a producer audition at the Excel Centre instead, which is basically what happens if you haven't been contacted. That's the one you do if you literally just apply and they like your application form and your video. That's the one you get sent to, the big public one. But I couldn't do that either, because I was doing, I paid work really, and I couldn't afford at the time, just having set up a business, to take a whole, the problem is they do a lot of weekend auditions, which is crazy really, because that's when the entertainers are all busy. That's what they do. So I couldn't do that either. And I'm going back and forth with this guy, I go, look, I know it seems like I don't want to do it, but I do want to do it. Is there another way you can see me? And basically, it looked like it weren't going to happen. We basically left it, if there were going to be any more comedy showcase dates, let me know. But if not, I can't really do it. And that's how we left it. And in the meantime, another BGT scout contacted me. But this time contacted me through my Bam Bam social media. Right. So the original guy contacted me as Graeme Mathews. These people contacted me Bam Bam, probably not knowing it was the same person. And this guy was a local scout. So his job was to go to various places around the country and set up pop-up auditions. And they would even come and see you if you couldn't get to a pop-up audition. And basically what happened is he said, we're coming to Southend. Is that near you? And I said, yeah, it is quite near. And he gave me all the dates, and he seemed quite keen. He was like, well, if you can't do that date, we'll come and see you. I said, I can get to Southend on the Saturday afternoon. They were there till 5. I had a show at Marsh Farm in the morning and a kids' party somewhere. I said, I can get there by 2:30, 3. And they were like, brilliant. So what I then did, because that's basically the even earlier stage of audition to the other ones.
Yeah.
So I then rang up original guy who, for whatever reason, I decided was a bit more senior. And I said, look, Ross, he was a great guy, actually. He was a researcher. He's now more senior. I think he's now sort of head researcher on the show. And I said to him, look, I've been contacted by this guy, Geordie, who's doing these local scouting things in local towns. If I go and do a bit to camera in this shopping centre in Southend for Geordie on Saturday, is there any way we can get that video footage straight to you and sort of cut out the middleman? He was like, yeah, that can be done. So I went and did a bit to camera in the Royal Shopping Centre in a disused shop that had gone bust. That's what the high street looks like these days. Lots of empty shops, sadly. And it was literally one guy and he had an assistant, 2 people and a camera, and you literally just stand in this. It was like a disused clothes shop, so just all white walls, and you stand there and do a bit. And he then rang me on that was Saturday. He rang me on the Monday and said, we really liked you. You've been passed on basically to Ross, who was the original guy I spoke to. He's going to be in contact. You're definitely going to go through to a further stage. You won't hear from me again. That's my bit done. And then a couple of days later, this guy Ross rang me and went, that's brilliant. We've got enough. We want you to do the audition to the judges. So I didn't have to do any more auditions. So I say I almost didn't do it. If it weren't for this guy asking me to go to a shopping centre and do it.
Yeah.
How open are, because in your act that you done on the audition, you had Amanda Holden join you on stage to take part in the magic and the act. How open are the judges to actually getting involved? Because there's some that you see on there where there's people throwing knives and things like that, and other acts, and you often think, how are they even getting away with inviting them up? So, I mean, although yours there was no danger involved, but how open were they to things like that?
It's a funny one because you don't meet the judges before you go on.
Right.
So you're dealing with all the producers and stuff. And they tell you like, oh yeah, they'll do that. And you actually do think like, is it going to be all right? But they told me, I don't know why, but they'd said to me, use Amanda Holden. It had been decided I was going to use Amanda Holden. But I don't know, even to this day, whether she knew that when I walked out on stage, I was an actor that was going to get her up. And I don't know why they do it. If you watch all the magic acts and stuff, it's quite often Amanda Holden. She seems to be the favourite one. I don't know why that is. I don't know. Simon, you talk about danger. Simon Cowell loves the knife throws and stuff. He's really into that. He gets up and has a go and lets them throw the knife at him and stuff, which is brilliant. But yeah, no, they'd said to me, use Amanda Holden basically for that trick with the cups. So yes, but whether she was primed or not, I don't know. Because I'd said to them, because they don't sort of give that much away really. They don't tell you whether she's going to know or not. I said to them, if she refuses to tip the cup over it, he's going to ruin my act. So it's up to you, but it might be better if you tell her it is a magic trick and she's not going to get wet. Just warn her in advance. Because I've done that trick for a long time, and I have had people just point blank refuse to tip the cup over. In fact, now I do the trick even more regularly now because everyone wants to see it. It's the one I didn't beat the team. I do it in comedy clubs, parties, everything. I must admit now I actually tip the cup over for them, whereas I didn't. But some people just point blank refuse. So I said to me, you might want to tell her she won't get wet. But whether they did or not, I don't know. I don't know.
With your acts, there's sort of a right balance of you're in control, but it seems like it's absolute chaos. Like, how do you rehearse that? Like, is there behind the scenes a very slick operation where you know exactly where everything's going, but you're making it look chaotic? How's that work?
I am not a slick magician.
Yeah.
I'm not. No, it's something I struggle with. I struggle with being organised. I try these days. I do these days know what I'm going to do and where all my props are, but it's not my forte. I've got like rooms in my garage in my house just full of props and stuff that are all over the place. I'm not very good at organising things, but I suppose with that I knew exactly what the act was going to be. But no, I wouldn't say slick. I do these days try and be more organised, but it's not being slick, being tidy. is not my forte. I was talking earlier on, so I can't sing or dance. I'm dyspraxic. I've got dyspraxia, which is like a coordination thing.
Right.
Now, I'm quite fortunate because most people that I've met over the years with dyspraxia also have something else. Now, I'm just dyspraxic, where it's quite common for autistic people to also be dyspraxic, people with Asperger's to also be dyspraxic, people who are dyslexic to also be have dyspraxia. Yeah. But with me, I've just got the dyspraxia. Now, it doesn't affect me massively. It's hand-eye coordination and rhythm are the main things, really. I can't even clap to a beat. Like, I always just half a second off. And when I've done panto stuff and dancing and that, I just can't do it. I have a go at that, and it's all. But but having researched dyspraxia, there's lots of things dyspraxic people find difficult, and one of them is tidiness and organisation, and that is, and I think it's the dyspraxia that adds to my comedy and adds to the chaos, really. Yeah. I know this sounds strange, because of the dyspraxia, I always slightly look like I don't know what I'm doing. And I think that, like, I can't do DIY, I'm useless. But even if I could, even something simple, like, for example, drilling a hole in a wall, I could probably drill a hole in a wall, but I would look like I wouldn't be able to, I look funny holes in it. Yeah. And I think that is what adds to the chaos. So although I do know exactly what I'm going to do, but I also, because I'm a comedian, I do a lot of comedy clubs as well, I do also try and be a bit ad hoc. Sometimes some of the biggest laughs, especially when you're an MC at a comedy club, or even when you do a set, some of the biggest laughs are things you just say off the cuff at something that's happened. So I do try and be a bit spontaneous. I can't even say it. Hang on, spontaneous.
I think that's part of the charm of your act, is that kind of, because that's the thing. Whenever you watch shows like that, or any sort of talent show, there's part of you not wanting the person to fail, but you're looking at it, waiting for the mistake to happen or for something. And if you see someone who then manages, they give you that impression. I mean, the judges show you straight away, even when who we had on before. I remember seeing the video of them, and they look and they go, I don't think this guy's going to be any good, which sets you as the viewer in that mindset. But then when they come out and like your audition had me literally like cracking up. I thought it was amazing, and the one in the semi-final as well. I thought it was brilliant. It's like that moment where you remember it and it sticks in your mind, and he'll be or she'll be the one that you talk about when you're in the office or wherever you are with your friends. And I think that's one of the best things. Just to wrap up the BGT part, do you feel it has given you a good platform afterwards as well? Although you was already, like you said, well recognised in what you do, did it push it on to another level?
100%, but COVID has ruined a lot of it, to be honest. So yeah, it definitely did. To really get, I missed out on the final. I just missed out. I finished, I was in the top 3 of my semi-final. I got to the bit where the judge, where they basically said the guy who's won, who got the most votes. That wasn't me. And there was then me and one other stood there. The judges then did a bit where, you probably saw it, where they, say who they want to put through. And they went 2 each. So Simon and Dave voted for me. Amanda and Alicia voted for the chap who was a singer, who was also in the top 3 with me. And then they were deadlocked. So they went back to audience vote, and he had more votes than me and went through. Then I was in the wild card. I was considered for the wild card. I was waiting for the call right through to the Saturday to find out where I got the wild card. But there were so many comedians and magicians that year that 3 of the acts that had finished, 3 of the 4 acts that had finished sort of 3rd in their semi were magic and variety. So they went for the one that wasn't a dance act. There were no dance acts in it. So I think if you get to the final, I've obviously got a lot of friends that have done it over the years and people I've spoken to. I think getting to the final is that one step further. But it did make a difference. I got offered work I'd never, ever been offered before. And also, it allowed me to do things. So, I mean, I've got a family, I earn a living. It's very difficult as an entertainer because you get asked to do stuff quite a lot for free. And sometimes you have to weigh things up. What's a really good opportunity? And what's going to earn actual money. So it's difficult sometimes to get that right. And I've had situations where I've got it wrong. Like, for example, if that hadn't happened, I hadn't become the South End Scout, I wouldn't have done BGT because I was doing a party for X amount of money instead, you know. So it's really tricky. And I had a thing once when someone asked me to do a comedy gig, and it was for no money. There was no money, or it was just expensive. I think it was for free. And I got offered a gig the same night in a rough pub for about 120 quid. So I went and did the one for 120 quid. And then I found out latterly that one of my absolute comedy idols that I've never met was on the one that was on the same bill as the one I didn't do because it was for no money. And yeah, so you have to make that toss up. Now, one of the things with that is pantomime. So I've always wanted to do panto, always. Now, it doesn't quite pay enough for me to do that in December because as a kids entertainer, this December's very different, but we'll get on to that in a minute. But as a kids entertainer and a comic, I can earn loads of money in December, and I can earn enough to get me through if January's rubbish. And I mean, I've had times over the years where I've done 25 kids parties or kids shows in December, plus about, you know, even 30, I think I've done, plus comedy on top on the Friday, Saturday evenings. So you can be really, really busy, and you're always worried January, February's going to be dreadful. So you try and get as much in as December. So when people have mentioned panto to me over the years, what they pay a panto comic, if you are sort of just an unknown, really, it wasn't ever viable for me to do it. So doing BGT, I then got offered panto, and it was viable for me to do it. Now, I didn't earn any more money by doing panto than if I'd done my normal stuff. I didn't earn any less either, so it allowed me to do that. I got offered work all around the world. I think the thing about the show, so although I didn't get the final and I didn't get a situation where a big management company get in touch or want to put me on tour or any TV or anything like that afterwards, what it does do with the YouTube clips and the Facebook clips, it makes you instantly available internationally to be watched. So I had, sadly, a lot of them aren't happening, but I had a corporate booking in Abu Dhabi that got cancelled, unfortunately, because of the coronavirus. Someone asked me to host an awards ceremony in India, just things like that. And I was meant to be going to South Africa for a comedy festival, and that was a guy who literally just seen my BGT clip on YouTube, and that actually was cancelled because of coronavirus, but I'm meant to be doing that next year instead, so hopefully I'll still get to do that, fingers crossed. So yeah, it got me opportunities I never would have had. It wasn't completely life-changing. I think it can be, but I think for it to be completely life-changing, work and money-wise, you've got to get to the final, probably top 3 really. But it still made a big difference. But like, you know, not a lot, but I ever so slightly put my prices up for kids' parties. I went from being with comedy club stuff. I went from being the MC or the opening act to being the headliner a lot of the time, which was probably, you know, an extra 50 quid on each gig and stuff. So yeah, it was great. But for some people, it's like absolutely amazing. But I most certainly don't regret it. I loved it. I think to be an entertainer or a comedian, you have got to have a bit of an ego. I try and keep it in check. I try and be a nice bloke. But you have. And I think really, most of us, if we're honest, probably do want to be famous. Yeah. And I do. I really do want to be famous. And BGT gave me that for about 3 weeks. And it was great. I mean, honestly, it's mad. I get... Over the years, there's been things the papers about, especially with kids, when kids do it, and you know, should they have kids on it? And kids end up mucking their song up, and they cry, and they can't deal with the attention from the press and stuff. And it is mad. I think you have to already be an entertainer to be able to handle that, because it's sort of, for me, that's what I've always worked towards. I wanted to be more well known than I was. Or I think we all do, you know, entertainers want to be more well known, and it's instant fame. I mean, people stop you in the street. People are asking me. I signed someone's receipt in Asda. People asked me selfies everywhere I went. People stopping their car to talk to me when I was walking down the road. It was mental. So I get how some people can't cope with it. And then it's gone. About 3-4 weeks later, you go from people wanting to talk to you every second, and you walk in a pub or a shop and everyone turns around, people ask for selfies, to someone mentioning it once a day, to someone mentioning it once a week, to only coming up once a fortnight. It's like that, you know.
Do you think now, because you said you like always wanted to be famous, has that ticked the box for you, or is that giving you the hunger of thinking I want that even more now?
Oh, I want it more, mate. I do.
Yeah.
I really do. This year's been such a stumbling block because things were going really well. I was happy. If I'd never got fame again, I'd never got on telly again, I was happy with what I created from that.
Yeah.
And I'd gone back to doing cabaret holiday parks because all the big holiday parks wanted me and the money was better, so it was worth the travel. And it was brilliant. So stuff all around the world. And my parties and the agency was doing really well as well. And it was great. So if I'd never got on telly again, I'd never become more famous. I think I was quite happy that what I was doing was sustainable. But, and great fun as well. And got to Panto, it was brilliant. But I say now, of course I'd love to be on telly again, but I was quite happy. But now with the coronavirus, it's really tough. I think I'll bounce back. But I worry for some people in the entertainment industry, it's going to be even harder. I mean, I've lost loads of money and I've lost a little bit of identity of who I am because obviously you're not doing shows all the time. Yeah. But I think because I got quite a high profile, I've probably got more chance to be able to bounce back. Some people might find it even harder because I still got a bit of profile from doing BGT, you know. I'm still probably slightly more well known than most kids entertainers in Essex. Yeah. I've probably got slightly more Facebook likes, so I've got half a chance more. So some people it's going to be, I think it could be really hard, almost impossible for me after this to make a full-time living again doing this. But for some people, it might just never happen. It's really sad.
Yeah. With the pandemic, how have you had to adapt in what you do?
I'm doing virtual stuff. The short answer is I've lost all my work, basically, mate. I've lost all my work's gone. I've been doing some. The problem is the rule changes are the problem. You just get round one, you navigate it, you work with the venues to find a way of still putting something on, and the goalposts move again. Yeah. My biggest concern for the future is everything is so uncertain. People have just stopped looking and planning things ahead. Now, this is going to be a big problem for the entertainment industry, for hospitality, for airlines, for travel, because people stop planning things ahead. I mean, I wouldn't book holiday now next year. I mean, I don't even know whether I can afford to go on holiday next year. I definitely wouldn't book one. And that's going to be the same with kids' parties, with stand-up comedy nights, with everything. So people just stop booking. So in March, we had loads of cancellations for stand-up, for the Children's Entertainment Agency, for events, festivals, everything was cancelling. But people were still booking for June, July, September. Everyone thought it was going to be like a 3-month problem. But now, we've had so many fits and starts, people just aren't booking anything now. So I've adapted it's been constant adapting. So I'm doing children's birthday parties on Zoom, virtually. They've been unbelievably popular. So I don't think anyone in my industry can get to the level where they can do as many or earn as much from as they were live, but it's something, it's good. I've taken a part-time job. I never thought I'd be working in a shop, never thought I'd ever work in a shop. Got massive respect for people to do, and I'm doing it. I took it temporarily for 3 months. Originally, I was going to leave in end of June when I went to South Africa. That got cancelled. I'm still there now. I've been there 7.5 months. I was a coronavirus temp, and now I'm permanent. And so I worked part-time in the shop, still doing stand-up. Still, I put a few. I haven't really. In the summer, I was doing birthday parties in gardens and things because we could do outdoor parties. Then the rule of 6 came in and ruined that. Then I tried to put some public stuff on in venues. Did a few bits over October half term. It was really hard, but the venues were brilliant, really supportive. We laid chairs out differently. Virtual stuff was really busy March, April, and May, but when the kids broke up from school, it died a death because all the kids wanted to be outside. And then that's picked up again after the Raw 6 came in, after the November lockdown came in, that's picked up again. I did five virtual parties last weekend. That's the most kids parties. That's the most I've done in one weekend. So that's about what I would normally do, about 5 real life kids parties a weekend. I did 5 virtuals, but it's so up and down. So adapting constantly. And even stand-up is we're doing it. People love it. People want to go out. People really are desperate for entertainment. Every stand-up comedy show I put on, with like an MC, a headliner, opener, closer, have sold out. Every single one I put on. But we put hardly any on compared to what we normally would. But everyone we put on sold out. The venues are having to jump through hoops. I'm now waiting to hear from 5 venues who have got stuff in me December, whether they can find a way around this food thing. So I'm now tier 2 where I am, as you guys are as well.
Yeah, we are now.
But tier 2, so the last tier 2, when we became tier, because this is your first time in tier 2, but Essex, this is, we went in tier 2 in beginning of October. Now, the last tier 2 wasn't quite as bad. It was a nightmare. We had to change everything, but that was done. 10 o'clock curfew, we brought the shows forwards. Waitress service didn't massively affect us and table service, because with comedy that works anyway, so that wasn't a problem. But now, of course, it's the food thing, because tier 2s now, you can't go to a pub or a restaurant without food. So a theatre isn't quite as bad, because a theatre, their main revenue isn't alcohol, so they can just do just soft drinks. It was like an art centre and stuff like that. But I'm doing shows in March. I've got 5, between about 2 or 3 different venues. I've got 5 comedy nights and 2 kids things in marquees at the back of pubs and venues, because venues have been so resilient and so adaptable. That's why it's such a shame that they're getting treated the way they are. I mean, some of the landlords I know, I know people that put up a 300-seater marquee in the garden at pubs, 2 different venues. Heated it, put flooring in, had only 100 seats in a 300-seater marquee, put TVs in for the football, put shows on, put a stage on, put a one-way system. They've done all that, and now they can't operate again. So they've now got to try and find a way of certain food for everyone. And the other thing is we sold tickets. So if someone bought a ticket for a comedy night for a tenner, and suddenly it's now got to be 18 quid and include pie and mash. There's a problem. They've got to contact everyone. So it's just adapting is definitely the word. And how I've adapted really is just watching the news constantly, panicking constantly, trying anything you can. And we literally just don't know where we are from one. And now they're reviewing it fortnightly. That's brilliant. But any shows that people have got in, for example, in a tier 2 area on the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st of December, you won't know till the 10th whether you can do them or not. So it's just horrendous. How's
your act change with the virtual performances? You know, I'm guessing there are certain things you do in front of someone that doing actually on the, the constraints of a screen wouldn't be possible. How's that changed?
So the biggest thing that's changed, both on virtual and for live parties, live shows, kids parties and stand-up, since the coronavirus, is participants. I normally have an assistant for loads of stuff. So when I do a kids party, so the first week of all the rule changes, and then when I started doing parties again in July, I didn't know if I'd get kids up to be my assistant, how you do it, and whether you just sanitise your hands and clean all the equipment and it's all right. Didn't really know what to do. So the first thing I did, I looked at my whole kids show first. Stand up was a bit different. I looked at my whole kids show, and I worked out that in a normal kids party, 90 minutes or 2 hours, about 45% of what I do is dancing. Dancing became a big no-no. And then of the magic I do, I worked out, so I'm left with 55% of what I normally do, and I worked out 40 of that 55%, I normally have an assistant up with me. So I've literally had to go through everything. What tricks can I do just with me without using an assistant? And that's the same for Zoom and virtual. And even stand-up, I'm still using assistants, but I'm leaving them sat down now. I can't get someone to do the water trick, for example. I do a mind reading routine. I'm still doing that, but I do that when they're far away from me. I normally do a thing where I get someone to pick a card. I can't touch their cards and get them to touch for the moment. So it's a nightmare. And the kids stuff, I must admit though, you just adapt and it works. The virtual stuff, it's working. When I first did a kids show, I did a kids show on virtual way before I did any comedy on virtual. And in fact, I've done a lot more kids stuff virtually than adult stuff, because I think it's just a bit. I think by April, every adult in this country had done 48 chats with their mates. They'd all been in a virtual pub, which isn't like a real pub, and they'd all done 19 quizzes, and everyone was zoomed out, So I have done some adult stuff, but I think it's a bit fed up with it, and it's different with the kids. Kids quite like it, but. When I first did a virtual show for kids, I didn't know what to do. And I basically thought I couldn't do a party, so I did a show. So they just sat and watched me do a show. But a lot of that was I didn't know how to use Zoom, because I'd never used Zoom before the pandemic. So after about 3, I realised I could interact. So once I realised I could unmute the kids, I could talk to the kids, I could change the picture, slide across and just have one of them on. I could tell everyone to look at a different person. And once I realised all that stuff, it's become brilliant. It's hard because if I've got 35 devices on and they're all 7-year-olds and they start unmuting themselves and shouting, it's really hard. So you have to literally, I'm like this. People must see this all the time, right? Let me, must literally just see my thumb doing that the whole way through. Literally muting, unmuting all the time. But they are really good. Kids love them. It is a great alternative. And most of it you can do. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do a magic trick that involves participation right now. Good. Matt, I'm going to pick you, mate.
Yeah, brilliant.
Because I was I mean, it's, you know, you've done nothing wrong, James. It's just that because the light is reflecting off Matt's head because he hasn't got any hair, you see. It was going right in my eyes. It just made me instantly more drawn to him. And because of the glow around his head, it does make him look like he's got a spotlight on him. So
I polished it this morning.
Trick. So I'm going to do a trick, right? And I'm going to use magic and the power of transportation. I just realised all the people that are, you guys can see me. The guys listening to this on the podcast won't be able to see this, will they?
Even more reason for them to watch it on YouTube.
Exactly.
Watch it on YouTube. But they can just imagine how good it is as well. That's the other thing they can do. So, Matt, what we're going to do, mate, is I'm going to use magic and transportation to do a magic trick that involves you where you are. So it's going to be amazing, this, mate. Absolutely amazing. Now, first of all, I just want to do a quick intelligence test. So, Matt, 2, 4, 6 or 13, what's the odd number out?
That's 13.
No, it's 6. All the others come with rice. now, Matt, what I'm going to do, Matt and James, right? Sometimes when I do this magic trick, some people are so amazed they forget to clap. But in all seriousness, if you're not impressed by this, this is only the first stage. The second stage will blow your minds, right? I'm just going to move the camera back a little bit. So I've got a piece of paper here, right? And I've got a lighter that I bought from the pound shop. So, whoa! Right, so I've got this piece of paper, the pound shop lighter. I took my eyebrows off there, right? Now, what I'm going to do, it took my hair off, I look like Matt, wasn't I? Right. So I've got this piece of paper, and what I'm going to do right now is going to blow your mind. I'm going to turn this piece of paper into a round ball. But don't forget, if you're not impressed by this, wait till the second bit. And that's a round ball. Look at that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, if you're not impressed by that, this next bit will blow your mind. I'm going to put it inside my pocket, and I'm going to use the power of magic and transportation to make it fly to Norfolk and land in Matt's pocket. Matt, can you have a look in your left-hand trouser pocket and tell everyone listening at home, is that red ball in your pocket?
No.
No. But imagine if I could have done that. Magic.
It would have been.
Thanks for being a good sport, Matt. I've now
awesome.
got to hoover up confetti that's all over the spare.
Sorry, mate.
My missus don't like me doing this stuff on Zoom virtually. She came home the other day. She's been out the other day. She came home with that little girl the other day, and I was mid-virtual party, and I was fire eating indoors, and she was she went very happy about that.
Graham, to round up this podcast,
I am quite round, yeah.
What are your long-term aspirations?
When things get back to normal.
Right now, middle of the pandemic, is just to be able to bloody work again.
Yeah.
I literally want to go to work. My missus wants me to go to work. My missus used to moan about me always being at work or being down the pub. Now she'd love me to be at work or down the pub. I want life. My long-term ambitions, it's changed. I remember I wrote a Facebook status like we all do on New Year's Eve about what an amazing year I had. I'd done my first panto. I've been on telly. I've met Lorraine Kelly and sat on her chair, right? All this stuff. And I never knew this was going to happen in 2019. What could 2020 possibly have in store for me? It's going to be really tough to beat 19, but you never know. It could even be better. And then, of course, everything just crashed around me in February. Yeah. So it's all changed. Right now, I'd love to do something amazing and be on telly again. But right now, I just want to work. I just want to go back. I never thought that of all the big opportunities I get and the things from BGT, I could fly around the world and do work and do big holiday parks and massive festivals where I've got 4,000 people shouting my name and stuff. Now, of all that, it's lovely, but I never thought anything would stop me being able to do parties in British halls, kids' parties in British halls, or a comedy club and a pub to 50 people. I never thought that would ever get taken away. So right now, I just want to work again. I literally just want to perform live. My only aspiration I've got at the moment is to get back to performing live, get back to earning a living out of entertainment. And I also want I've got a 3-year-old. And although I'm sure kids are proud of their parents, whatever job their parents do, I've always thought it's going to be really interesting for her because she's got a dad who does something a bit wacky and a lot of kids know who I am and stuff. The kids stuff. So it's always going to be like, and as much as I'm really happy I've got this part-time job, I don't want to just growing up and forgetting that I once was an entertainer. You know, if this pandemic lasts another 6 months, a year, and then long-term, the recession lasts 5 years and I can't perform again, I don't want to just have a normal job and sort of think Daddy just does something boring. Daddy's always done something crazy, you know, and it's just she's getting to the age of the stage where she actually understands what I do and I've stopped it. So it's it's frustrating. So my only ambition at the moment is to work again, make a living, making people laugh, and I love that I do something that's rewarding. I actually get to act like a Wally for a living, you know, and it's brilliant, and I just want to do that again. Yeah,
well, we certainly hope that things get back to some form of normality to enable you to get back doing what you've got such a strong passion for, and from my side, and I know Matt will agree with me, are very good at as well. So
thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to come down and see you at one of your shows.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys. It's been lovely chatting with you. I didn't even get time to ask you anything about yourself, so I was just talking about me, but that's what us entertainers do.
That's it. Well, where can the listeners and viewers find you, Graeme, on social media and stuff?
So they can find me at the moment, mate. They can find me working in the co-op. I never thought I'd say that.
Give us the address. We'll put it underneath. Yeah.
I'm on all the modern ones. Friends Reunited, MySpace. No, I'm on Insta. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page. I basically, no one can spell my name because it's Graeme and only got one T in Mathews. So I've recently decided all these other comics at gigs, they go like, give me a follow at Comedy Dan. And I don't even bother saying give me a follow because I'd have to go, give me a follow. It's Graeme, Graeme, Scottish spelling, Mathews in one T. So about 2 days ago, I've decided to change all my profiles and I'm now called Essex Comedian. So Insta, I was amazed it was available as well, wasn't that? Right. So Insta, I'm at Essex Comedian. Twitter, at Essex Comedian. My Facebook page, still called Graeme Mathews Comedian, but the username to find it is at Essex Comedian. So any social media, type in at Essex Comedian and you will find me.
Well, thanks, Graeme. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. Don't forget, if you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe on whatever platform you're watching and listening on, because in that way you won't miss out on any future episodes we put out.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms as well. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and give us a follow, and you'll be able to keep up to date with all of the latest episodes and posts that we put out there. But thank you for listening and watching.
And we'll see you next episode.